Welcome, everyone, to the College Football Show. But it's truly only the THE in caps, the College Football Show when you show up. So thanks for being here. Comments and questions are welcome. The CFP is being talked about for 2025. We only got 1 year into this, and they want to tear it up. People did not like how it went down last year in terms of seedings. And basically, that's it, seedings. And with the SEC and the Big Ten wanting to expand this down the road, they want to protect their own interests. Of course they do, because that's what college football is. Survival of the fittest. You protect your own interests. You don't work for the common good. Maybe they would take a page from the NFL handbook where everybody works for each other. That could be it. Get a commissioner, get a governing body, and everybody works to the common interest of college football, not just their own particular conference. Boy, we've talked about that a lot here. Again, your comments and questions are welcome. This is the show on record for college football each and every day, Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern time. And we are going to have an array of guests in future weeks. As we've stated a number of times, not that we're not going to have any guests on during the end of college basketball and March Madness, but it could be slim pickings until we get to spring football practice, the spring games in April. Hopefully there will be spring games left to talk about. But what is most important is that you are here. So thank you for that. We have folks lining up, including David Greenshields here. Karen is here. Thanks for being here, both of you. Jackson, of course. What's up, voice of college football nation? Thank you for all of that. And Jackson reminds us that if you have, whether that's a personal brand, a product, a business, a service, please sponsor with us. Partner with us. We will do good work for you. That has been proven time and time again. Just hit us up at sponsorships@vocfb.com as is listed there in the chat. We are going to get into the college football playoff and what is being discussed right now in terms of its future. And again, we're just 1 year into this expanded playoff, and there have to be changes now. When I was asked over and over and over during the course of the playoff itself, how the games were going, were they competitive? Was there too difficult a path for certain teams? The answer to all those questions was yes. There's always going to be a more difficult path. Now, you don't want that to be the result of all this. You don't want that to be common, that it's difficult for a number 1 seed to get to the national championship game more so than a number 4 seed. You don't want that. So you do your best to deal with that. And in future weeks, we are going to take college football. It's not just about the playoff. It's about what leads to the playoff that needs to be corrected. And that means scheduling. Scheduling needs to be corrected before the college football playoff should be addressed. Troy's in the chat. Everyone freaks out because there were bad games in the playoffs. News flash. There has almost always been bad games in the playoffs, both in college football during this playoff era, but also in the NFL during this same playoff season. The games in the college football playoff and the games in the NFL playoff in terms of average margin of difference, the average margin of win was almost identical. It was right around 2 touchdowns on average. We had good games. We had bad games. We had everything in between. I thought that the playoffs worked out rather well. Do I think Oregon got screwed? Yes, they did. They got screwed because partially, though, and you can't seed against this. You can't plot against this. They got Ohio State in their path their first game. And was Ohio State better than an 8 seed? Well, actually, they were the best team in the country, but did they earn better than an 8 seed? They did, but they also tripped around against Oregon earlier and had the debacle against Michigan. So having them in the 8th seed, you just had one of those situations that we see play out in March many times where a team's hot at the right time, or a team has always been the best team, but they just didn't play like it always. And other teams get in their path when it's the wrong time to get in their path. So I just think that that was unfortunate. In terms of the 4 top seeds being underdogs in the first game that they played, that was kind of predictable. So for Oregon taking on Ohio State, neutral field, it was basically a toss-up game. Oregon was a slight, very slim underdog. Same thing with Georgia against Notre Dame. So those were basically pick-em games. And then if you're going to elevate all the conference champions into the top 4 spots, then you're most likely going to have the 3 and 4 seeds, the conference champions from the Big 12 and the ACC, albeit this time it was from the Mountain West. They are going to be underdogs. And they acquitted themselves rather well, better than I anticipated, better than most people anticipated. So let's see what Ross Dellinger is reporting on this fine Wednesday. Yes, it is Wednesday. My days are a bit confused because we did not do the Ohio State show today. We did that back on Monday. Check it out. I am also fresh off the Ole Miss show, so please check that out. We had an Ole Miss offer come in, and we were able to track down that interview thanks to Leanne Herring. So check it out on the Ole Miss channel. That was PJ Carey, a top-notch defensive tackle, 50 offers, IMG, and that was a great interview. Again, that's on the Ole Miss channel. So here we go. Courtesy Ross Dellinger and Yahoo Sports, college football playoff format for next season still in limbo as commissioners punt on making seeding changes. And if that holds, that is going to make a lot of people angry, excluding myself, because I think we just need to, it's been set up, and not that it can't be changed if you build something that's awful. Yeah, you don't just leave it just for time's sake. Tear it up, do it better. But I don't have an issue with the seedings right now. I want to see this play out for 3 or 4 times. You can't just make a knee-jerk reaction to 1 year. And again, the results of this 1 year were not anything egregious. We had 2 excellent semifinal games, and we had a decent national championship game. And we had earlier games that were hit or miss. So the powers that be are meeting in Dallas. And you are seeing what I'm seeing. So here we go. The format for this year's CFP remains in limbo. Perhaps it could be solved with a familiar thing, money. Tuesday's meeting, playoff executives explored changes to the 25 postseason, but came to no decision on a proposal from the Big Ten and SEC to alter the playoff seeding. Interviews afterward, conference commissioners say they need more data before making a decision to move a straight seeding model that would eliminate the automatic first-round buys assigned to the 4 highest-ranked conference champions. Unfortunately, any kind of data can only be truly derived from this past season, because any data derived from previous seasons is a bit tainted based on the conference realignment. A shift that Big Ten and SEC leaders support, but a move that requires unanimity from the CFP Management Committee. The 10 FBS conference commissioners and Notre Dame's athletic director. Yes, I'm a professional broadcaster, or I was at one time. However, a financial compromise was discussed on Tuesday among the 11-member group. Several people with knowledge of the talks told Yahoo Sports. Financial compromise discussed. Okay, in the current 12-team format. So we're raising from 12 to 14. Most likely it's going from 12 to 16. So they agreed on the 12 team. Now they got to up it to 16, and it's going to have to sit well with everyone involved. So right now, the top 4 seeds, they get the buys. They're reserved for the 4 highest ranked conference champions. Each of those teams automatically earned $8 million because they got $4 million for qualifying, and then they get another $4 million for advancing to the quarterfinals, which they automatically do by just simply being present because they get the bye. Under discussion is the possibility of the 4 highest ranked conference champions continuing to earn that additional revenue despite not receiving a top 4 seed and first round bye. So the teams aren't going to benefit from being a conference champion or a top 4 seed, or a top 4 ranking, I should say. They'll just get the money. Their school will get the money. But we'll go back to the rankings themselves determining the seedings, which this past season, we'll get to it. We'll get to it in this article, I'm sure. Is it enough to sway the room to make the seeding change? Maybe. But there's another piece to the puzzle. ACC Commissioner Jim Phillips and Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark, and maybe we should stop here for a quick second and give Jim Phillips just a little bit more credit, not much, a little bit more credit than what he looked like a year ago when it appeared as though Florida State and Clemson were leaving the ACC and maybe others. It looks as though the conference has been stabilized, but maybe that has more to do with other conferences, i.e. the Big Ten and the SEC, not necessarily being as eager to grab those schools as most of us thought. So anyway, Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark believed that alterations to the 2025 playoff are tethered to any potential changes in 2026. Yeah, if you give up ground, even if it's only for 2025, if you give up ground in negotiations, you have, in a sense, screwed yourself for further negotiations. And it's not like you can say, okay, I'll agree to this for one season, but then I'm really going to lay down the law, lower the boom, and we're going to get what we want going forward. No, you can never give an inch where you don't need to give an inch, because if you do, you've set yourself up for future losses on the negotiating table. If you give ground now, then it's going to collapse on you later. So the 2026 playoff begins a new 6-year contract with ESPN, where the SEC and the Big Ten gain control over any format changes. You've got to look at it in totality, Phillips said, of the 25 playoff format and then the playoff that's going to kick in 2026 through 31. It's one contract coming to an end and a new cycle. And there's a link between the two. Phillips and Yormark, as well as the group of 6 commissioners, benefit from the automatic buys for the highest ranked conference champions. Absolutely, they do. So that was a win for them in the original negotiations. That was a definite win for them to say the conference championships need to mean something. The games themselves need to mean something, and also the results of the games, and that conference championship needs to mean something. And then after we saw it play out with what? Number 1 and number 2, Oregon, Georgia, number 1, number 2 out of the Big Ten and SEC. And then you drop down to, I believe, 8 or 9 to grab Boise State, and down to somewhere like 12 or 13 to grab Clemson. Yormark said changes in 2025 set the tone for changes in 2026 and beyond. Absolutely. Absolutely. They have risen to the top of their sport, the top of their profession, for good reason. During Tuesday's meeting, committee members did broadly discuss a 14 or a 16 team. So raise of hands. Do you guys want Do you want a 14 or a 16? If it was down to a 14 or a 16, what do we go with? Do we go with 14 or 16? So in answering that, don't just think about, do I want 16 teams in or 14 teams? Understand what the format differences are. If you allow 14 teams in the playoff, then you're going to have 2 byes. If you have 16, then you've got no byes. And that's really the difference, besides allowing 2 other teams to get in. 16 is better than 14, the real MVP says. 14 or 16, anybody on that one? And we'll get to the poll that we posted earlier today concerning the seeding process, because I believe that's coming up right here. And again, it's always good to see who's in the community today. Todd, David, DeReal, Jim R's here, punting on 3rd down. 79, Steely Matt. Don't know who you are, but hey, thanks for being here. Welcome to the Voice of College Football. So good to have everyone. 16, 16, 16 across the board. Lisa, good to see you. Hello to you. Troy says, if 14 or 16 are the choices, 16 would be my pick because no buys. Love it. Man, I must have said this a million times during the process in which we knew we were getting a new playoff, but we didn't know what it was going to look like. And how many zillion times did I say, no buys? Do not want buys. The way they put the 12 team together, I have to credit them, because if you're going to have buys, either because you want buys, because you want to favor certain teams or reward certain teams, or it's just the fact that you arrived at a number in which you have to have buys. We're going to see this for the next few weeks during the conference tournaments in basketball. If there have to be buys, or there are buys, they have to be earned. It cannot simply be a ranking, in my estimation. I don't believe that you should be handing out buys to teams just because you like how they looked the week before, and therefore you're going to rank them number 4 and them number 5. Therefore, they get a buy and they don't. No, something has to be earned. There have been buys. Trying to think when buys started in the NFL playoffs. Well, of course, if you want to look at it from the inverse way, basically there were no buys in the NFL playoffs up until 1978. Then in 1978, they introduced a second wild card. They only had one wild card previous, and the wild card would play the best team in the conference. There were only 3 divisions, and so they had 4 teams in the NFL playoffs. If you look from the merger through 1977, you'll see just 4 teams in the playoffs, 3 divisions, 1 wild card. So you got 1 versus 4, 2 versus 3. And so having the best record in football only gave you a home field advantage. And if you want to delve really deep into NFL lore, go back to 1972. Do you realize that the only undefeated team in modern NFL history played on the road in the AFC Championship game? Isn't that crazy to think about? The 17-0 Miami Dolphins played on the road in the AFC Championship game. Do you know why? Because they didn't determine that records had anything to do with home field advantage. They simply had a round robin system that just determined who played at home. So the undefeated Dolphins played on the road in the AFC Championship game. That's funny. But somebody woke up right after that and said, you know what, that really wasn't fair. And shortly thereafter, it might have been the next season, they determined, okay, we'll seed the teams based on record and head-to-head, and there we go. Back to my original point, then we get to 1978, and there weren't really buys as much as there was a wild card game. So wild card weekend back in 1978 through 2001 or 2 was simply one game in each conference that was the wild card game. It was almost like a play-in game. And then they expanded the playoffs to 6 teams and 4 divisions in each conference in 2002. And then they introduced buys because you had 6 teams, so you had to have buys. I am not in love with the way the NFL set that up starting in 2002, but at least you had to earn the bye. You had to be a division champion, and you earned it based on a division championship and a record against like competition. Everybody playing like competition. We don't have like competition in college football. We have 2 conferences that are decidedly better than the other 2 or the other 9. So I don't like the buys, but if you're going to have buys, they have to be earned. They have to be earned with a conference championship for me. Todd says 8 is ideal. But Lisa says, and she's 99% accurate, if not 100%, because we're not going backwards. We're not going to lose money, take away games. Not going to happen. We're already at 12. We're simply looking at 14 or 16, and hopefully that is the end of the expansion. For as much as we want to talk about this, for as much fun as it is to talk about what could be down the road, anything past 16 teams is ridiculous for football. The real MVP says Boise State got the same reward as Oregon, which is unfair to Oregon. Well, you could say that same thing to Georgia. Georgia got the same reward as Oregon. That's unfair to Oregon because Georgia lost 2 games. They didn't achieve as much as Oregon did. That's all. There's always going to be some nuance or discrepancy to that system if there's going to be buys. But I at least would rather have buys be determined by accomplishments and not determined by some committee or some ranking. Small Time Republic says if we go to 16, then get rid of the conference championship games. And I don't know if we're really going to deal with that today, but we're going to deal with that when I get some time to like lock myself in a quiet room that's pitch black, maybe. I'm kidding. But basically, I got to sit down and really think it through. But it's going to start with scheduling. I love the conference championship games, but I love the conference championship games of 1995 and 2005 and even 2015. They have been almost rendered useless. They have basically been rendered useless. And so the format either needs to change to make them viable again and truly rewarding to the champion, or you take them away. Exactly, Lisa. Can you imagine more than 16 teams in a college football playoff? Even ardent college football fans like all of you will be guessing or forgetting who's in the playoff. They made the playoff? Really? Oh, that game's on Friday? Really? Oh, Minnesota's playing Kansas State. Okay, that's the 24 seed is playing the 6 seed. Got it. Great. All right, back to our article here. Again, courtesy Ross Dellinger. So either 14 or 16. And it seems like most of you like either 8 or 16. The 14 team, 4-4-2-2-1-1. And you understand what that is. The SEC, the Big Ten, each with 4, the ACC and the Big 12 with 2. And then you got an at-large, which is almost reserved for Notre Dame as long as they're decent. And then you get the 1 from the group of 5. And there it's explained right there. 8, 10, wait a minute, 4, 4, 2, 2, 1, 1. That's the 14. So the 16 is basically 4, 4, 2, 2, 3, 1. You get 2 more at-large berths. Now, this next statement that Jim Phillips made, I fully support, but it's a bit of a joke in the current state of things. Asked about the format too, saying Jim Phillips, ACC commissioner, believes that as a guardian of the game, commissioners should be mindful of the greater good when determining a new format. No, that's not what you're paid to do. You're paid to protect your conference. You're paid to brand your conference, make money for your conference, Jim Phillips, and maybe this is why you don't do a great job in your position. That's not your job. I admire that to a large degree, to look out for the greater good of the sport, but that's not why you're the ACC commissioner. Quote, for all of us, there's been somebody before us and there will be somebody after us. You have to serve your constituents, but you can't be completely oblivious and not mindful of what's good for college football and the fans and what you're hearing from them. I don't know that what we're hearing from college football fans have much to do with this CFP, because college football fans basically just want a playoff, and they want to believe that there aren't kind of incendiary type elements that are controlling it. They want to know that the best teams are in the playoff and they're given a reasonable opportunity based on their achievements during the season to win games and win a championship. And it's not tilted or slanted in any unreasonable way toward a particular route to the championship or a particular conference. But I think college football fans are more concerned about the state of the game involving recruiting, NIL, transfer portal, and just flat out money. Money is a good thing. Money's a bad thing. Money is whatever we make it out to be. But if you get too much money in the hands of people that are not well intended and not intelligent or wise enough or discerning enough, then money corrupts. That's where I think the college football fan is generally. Sure, they have preferences about the playoff. I think all of you have obvious preferences about the playoff and not ruining the sport with having too many teams in a playoff where the regular season is damaged, not having too many teams in a playoff that you're seeing teams play that you don't think are championship worthy, seeing conference championship games either go away or see them damaged and see them appear to be meaningless or worthless. Those are your main concerns. It appears toward the playoff, but by and large, I think for the most, college football nation is concerned with the things that are off the field that are harming the sport, like players jumping all over the place and the money involved. Any comments out of you folks? Moose, we need 2 or 3 lost teams in either by where? What do we got here? Moose says we need 2 or 3 lost teams in either by here we are. Sorry, I'm not quite getting that. I think he's basically saying we have to include 2 and 3 lost teams, but that's not where he would like to be. DeReal says we don't need 4 or 5 lost teams making the playoffs. Once we get to 16, I believe we will have 4 lost teams in the playoffs. We're going to be at a place with 4 lost teams in the playoffs. I am in the process of crunching the numbers. And again, it's not apples to apples because the conferences have changed, but there would have been several 4 lost teams in the playoffs in the past, expanding to 16. Moose says more than 8 teams is ridiculous. Lisa says, can you imagine a 4 lost team winning the Natty? So we had 3 lost teams in the tournament this year. So Clemson lost 3, and that was it, right? Clemson lost 3. Yeah. They won a conference championship, but they had 3 losses. So we've already hit 3 losses. Just a couple of years ago, people were complaining about the possibility of 2 lost teams being in the playoffs, and we never got to that point. Did we? No. No, we did not have any 2 lost teams in the 4-team playoff. The worst record out there was 11-1. Think about that. The worst record we saw in the playoff just 2 years ago was 11-1. We only had 11-1 teams in the playoff. And now we've lowered that to 10-3 and to 10-2 for teams that did not go to conference championship games. And now it's going to drop again. It's going to drop again for 2 reasons. Adding teams and these guaranteed spots for the Big Ten and the SEC. My name is Mark. This is the College Football Show, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. We've got a heck of a show on Tuesdays with Leanne Herring and myself on the move. It's a recruiting and transfer portal update live every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. That's on the recruiting channel. Please like and subscribe. It's an easy thing to do. Please like the video and subscribe. That helps us considerably, especially when we've got a little small, intimate group like we do today. Please like and subscribe. Last week, after a joint meeting of their athletic directors in New Orleans, the Big Ten and SEC announced that they are in support of a straight seeding playoff format starting in 2025. And if that would have happened this past year, we had Oregon 1, Georgia 2, Texas 3, Penn State 4. And then what? Notre Dame 5, Ohio State 6. And so how would that have changed things? Well, Boise State would have been down at number 9 instead of 3, and Clemson at 12 instead of 4. Those teams didn't win games anyway. The 8-9 game would have been Boise State and Indiana, and the other game, or instead of Ohio State, Tennessee. So let's draw this up real quick. We would have had 1, 2, 3, 4. So you've got Oregon, Georgia, Texas, Penn State, 1 through 4. So you're 5, 12, 6, 11. Notre Dame against Arizona State. Ohio State would have played SMU. Then a 7-10 would have been Tennessee and 8-9 Boise and Indiana. Who am I leaving out? Arizona State. No, Arizona State 12. Who am I missing? Big Ten, Oregon, Ohio State, Penn State, Indiana, the SEC, Georgia, Texas, Tennessee. Big 12, Arizona State, SMU, Clemson. Clemson, I guess, was the 10. No, SMU was the 10. I don't know. Arizona State was ranked ahead of Clemson, weren't they? Yeah, Clemson would have been the 12. Arizona State, the 11. Here we go. Should have done this before. College football playoff rankings. So you guys tell me if this would have made for better games. Oregon, Georgia, Texas, Penn State get byes. And we would have had Notre Dame, Arizona State. Wow. Maybe Notre Dame does not get to the national championship game, possibly. Anyway, 5-12 game, Notre Dame, Arizona State. Ohio State, Alabama. Oh, that's right. But then we would have had to kick in Clemson. All right. So Bama's gone. Arizona State goes to 11. Clemson goes to 12. That's how I had it. Okay. So exactly. We've got Notre Dame, Arizona State, Ohio State, Arizona State, Tennessee, SMU, Indiana, Boise State. And then you've got Oregon playing the winner of Boise State and Indiana. That is the most significant change here is Oregon plays the Boise State Indiana winner. Texas plays the Ohio State Arizona State winner. Georgia plays the winner of Tennessee SMU. Penn State plays the winner of Notre Dame Clemson. So most likely you would have had second round Oregon, Boise State, Georgia, Tennessee, Texas, Ohio State, Penn State, Notre Dame. Not a national semifinal. Penn State, Notre Dame second round game. So all right. Moose, give it up. Ohio State did not deserve to get in a 12-team playoff. What? Oh, my goodness. Nonsense. Nonsense. Okay, let's get back to this. It's really foolishness to take on any kind of discussion about legitimacy of national championships in 2024 or 2023 or whenever. We've gotten to a place where they are legitimate now. We can argue about who gets into the playoff, but to question in any way national championships now, even though we will do that, we'll go through the format or the process or the formality of the process of going through all the national championships. And the first one we can really dispute, I'm not going to dispute it. The first national championship going backwards that will give any type of conversation to is Alabama in 2017. They did not win their division, their conference, and it was only a 14 playoff. It's only a 14 playoff. 5 conferences. You don't win your division, you don't win your conference. Not a 12 team. 12 team, you got to kind of let in teams that don't win their conferences. So it's beyond silly. It's sheer stupidity to argue anything not being earned in this day and age. All right. Back to this. Notre Dame situation. Not eligible for a first round bye. They should not be. They don't play a conference championship game. Now, if we strip away the conference championship games and Notre Dame plays as many games as everybody else, I still say you don't play in a conference, you don't get the benefits of being a conference champion, even if you did play the same number of games. Their AD there, Pete Bavacqua, is saying publicly that they should be eligible for a first round bye. Okay, now let's get to the money. Under the current performance-based distribution model, each team earns $4 million for qualifying for the CFP, and then another $4 million for playing in the quarterfinals, $6 million for getting to the semis, and $6 million for competing in the championship game. So Ohio State and Notre Dame, well, Ohio State, no, they made the same amount of money, right? Yeah. So whether you, and of course, neither one of them had buys, so it didn't matter. So they made $4, $8, and $12, $20 million. Oregon, Georgia, Boise State, and Arizona State earned the automatic $8 million payment last year under a straight seating change. Then that goes, of course, Oregon, Georgia, Penn State, and Texas. But those teams still made, all of them still made $8 million because they played in that second game. Will the SEC and Big Ten agree to distribute the $8 million to the 4 highest ranked conference champions, even if they aren't ranked high enough to get the buys? Time will tell. Leaders are planning another meeting in March. Okay. We will work on this, folks. We will try to devise our perfect setup as we have in the past that they didn't listen to. Red Buckeyes here. Dave's here. David, I see what you deal with. It's not worth a conversation. There's a 12-team playoff. Ohio State dominated the playoff. They were clearly the best team in the country. So you can make all sorts of comparisons between national championship teams. I have no issue with that. I have no issue with any Michigan fan claiming that that they had a better team. They might have had a better team. They didn't lose any games. All of that, absolutely. But it's just silliness to talk about asterisks being placed next to national championship teams that won over the course of a 16-game schedule and ran through the most difficult postseason in the history of college football. Oh, man. Certainly one of the great people on YouTube is here. Thank you, Brent. Elvis Nation, very interesting topic. This is how I slice up this Ohio State-Michigan comparison between 2023 and 2024. Trying to be as objective and unbiased as possible. They both won national championships. So let's start there. So let's put that to rest because that's not even debatable. It's just, it's such a ludicrous commentary that comes from a portion of the Michigan fan base. I think it's a very small portion that are talking about there being some kind of conditions placed on Ohio State's national championship. There's a 12-team field now. There wasn't before. If we were going to apply the same logic to other situations in sports, we would be stripping away all sorts of championships because every playoff in every major sport has expanded and then been won by teams that would not have made the playoff in earlier versions. The Michigan fan base and the Michigan team can boast about being undefeated. Absolutely. That's a great accomplishment. Does it change a national championship? Does it make it more legit? No. National championships are as legit as they can be if they are earned. And in the playoff era, they are earned. So a national championship is as legit. It's like many times you will hear people in their rhetoric put a very or a 2 or 3 varies in front of whatever word that is significant enough a word, substantial enough a word to make the point anyway. The varies are typically not used. She's a beautiful woman. She's a very beautiful woman. Well, the word beautiful justifies all that we need to know. So legitimizing national championships, they're all legitimate in this era. Post 2014, they're all legitimate. Okay. Michigan's got an undefeated football team from 2023. Be proud of that. Boast about that. Michigan beat its rivals in that season, and Michigan won the Big Ten championship. But none of those things have anything to do with the national championship. They are great accomplishments. They are points of boasting that are legitimate, but none of those are required to win a national championship. There is no connection between those things. Now, because of circumstances, you may have to beat your rival to keep going, to put yourself in a position to win a national championship. You may have to win your conference, i.e. Arizona State, to get yourself in a position to win the national championship. But in this case, none of those things I just mentioned, being undefeated, beating your rival, winning the conference, were prerequisites to winning a national championship. None of those things were necessary. What was necessary was beating the 4 best teams in the country consecutively. So Michigan, again, if I'm a Michigan fan, I am boasting and bragging about being undefeated in 2023 and winning the Big Ten and beating Ohio State. Absolutely. Don't know that I would talk about it every day, but or more than once a month, but some people just feel as though they need to trumpet this all the time. On the Ohio State side, there's no question. Everything I've just stated is irrefutable. The championships were earned. Michigan had these 3 bullet points that are significant. Big Ten champion, beat their rival, undefeated. That's irrefutable. What's irrefutable on the Ohio State side is that they marched through the most difficult postseason in the history of college football. That's not debatable. It's not even close. And if somebody would like to debate me on that, please do. Please debate me that there's been a tougher postseason in the history of college football than defeating number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, and then including the regular season, numbers 8 and 10. That is all irrefutable. Thank you for the comment there. That brings us to this. Appreciate that. Disputed national champions, 1990s. Yes, disputed national champions of the 2020s when we get around to writing that gem. I'll have all sorts of fun with that one. So the disputed national champions of the 1990s is not just a history book. We delve into every season, certainly dissect it from start to finish, all the big storylines, all the big games, all the turning points, the controversies, the rankings, the ratings, who got left out, who got screwed, what were the ramifications of that particular season, and how did that season live on in college football history. Then we take each one of those seasons and we propel them into the BCS era, into the 4-team college football playoff era, the 12-team and the 14-team. Maybe I'll have to write an addendum for the 16-team playoff era. So please check it out. Thank you for the reminder, and it's down in the description section down below. Or you can just go on to Amazon and search Disputed National Champions. When I do that, it comes up top line, Disputed National Champions. Thank you for that. All the feedback I've gotten, and I'm thankful for this, has been positive. Has been glowing and positive. So thank you for that. All right, folks, we made our way through this Ross Dellinger article on the CFP, and there is more to come in March, apparently, when these conferences get back together. I will certainly open things up for a call or two. Would love to emphasize that we would like to hear from a new caller. Anyone new to the show would be great to hear from you on anything concerning college football. It does not have to be about the college football playoff, but we have left the link there in the chat. We've got a Miami show coming up at 7 p.m. Eastern time tonight. Todd, thank you for that. I appreciate it. But again, 7 p.m. Eastern time tonight, the Miami show with me and Cam Underwood from State of the U. We've got the Clemson show at 8 p.m. Eastern time. And I apologize for not having the other shows in my brain right now. What I do have in my brain is we've got the poll that we put up. So we want to be able to recognize your vote. Let's see what we've got. I don't know that a lot of people responded to this. We shall see. So what we have here, and then we will take a call. As we asked earlier today, should college football change its playoff seeding format? We'll discuss as we are right now. 89% of you, but the 37 votes. So we did not get many votes in for this. Typically, when we throw up a poll like the last one got 477 votes. So maybe we'll have to check on this one a little bit later. But as of right now, overwhelmingly, so I'm guessing that is like 33 to 4. Yes, change it. Guessing we're getting a large contingent of Big Ten fans that are chiming in on that one. I believe we've got a caller coming in here. We've got Brent on the line. Brent.
Hey, Mark, how you doing?
I am doing great. Thank you so much for calling.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I wish I could do this more often, but we content creators, we're like ships that pass each other through the night. We're always so inundated, but you know what? It's always great. A lot of times I have this playing on and might not be in the chat, but a lot of times I have it playing on because for years this has been really my go-to for college football analysis. And I don't say that just because I like you. I say it because it just is great. And I also want to encourage everybody to please purchase that book. Mark, you told me a long time ago that a lot of your powers lie within your writing, and you showed me how it was done.
Well, that's very nice of you, Brent. I appreciate that.
This is not a paid endorsement, by the way. No, this is no. It was really good. You know what I think was your great approach too. For people that aren't as in depth with all the inner workings, I think that it was a very universally simple read, and it's actually harder to write that way because to be able to have a wider approach and convey what you want to convey, and yet not overwrite, not add too much flowery language. It was very straightforward, and it made for a very easy read. And I want everybody to get it because I got the first day. It's really good.
Thank you, Brent. That is so nice of you to say. And we're going to let everyone know where you can find Brent
Oh, you don't
right
have to do
here
that.
on YouTube. And that's, of course, Elvis Nation. And you
For
talk about a labor of love for you, but a labor of love or a an experience of great love and joy for the rest of us to take in what your work produces, because that is a fun time. And however we connected on YouTube, and I'm sure it was more me reaching out to you and finding you because of seeking out great Elvis content, and to see you. Uh, come from a place of love and respect, but then continue your knowledge and really dive into the great career has been just a joy to witness.
Well, what happened is you reached out. This is like a few years ago now. You reached out to me, and I saw your channel name, and I go, well, "This is a nice person." And I'm like, "Oh, wait, this is a college football channel." I said, "What?" And I mean, your channel has grown exponentially since I've been there. It has expanded, it has evolved, and I couldn't be happier because I think, and I think the first thing I ever said to you, I said, it's great to have awesome analysis minus the gimmickry that a lot of other media outlets employ. And I said, it's fun, but it's also for the thinking person. And I'm really thankful that you're progressing in the way that you deserve to progress. It is now just as much of a tradition on the weekends to come here after the Michigan game as it is to watch the game, because the players now. There's Moose out there and stuff like that. I got to see what these cats are going to say today, and it's just great stuff, Mark. And I just want to implore everybody to get the book. You will not be dissatisfied. I didn't tell Mark I was going to do this ahead of time. I just felt it in my heart, and I don't always get a chance to just sit and participate like this. So great analysis, and thank you guys, and thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Brent. Great to hear from you.
All right, we'll see you
Have a
later,
great
sir.
day.
You
Alrighty.
too. Bye.
Great to hear from Brent. So again, aside from the college football, one of my great joys in life on YouTube is to seek out great Elvis content. And Brent, with his Elvis Nation channel, is a go-to for sure, near the top of the list and one of the long-standing ones for me. All right, back to the college football. Again, tonight at 7 with Cam Underwood from State of the U on Miami. We've got the Clemson show at 8. And we just wanted to check on the CFP and the offerings of one Ross Dellinger from Yahoo Sports today. And so we do appreciate you all being here, the Voice of College Football. Again, this 4 p.m. Eastern time get-together Monday through Friday is going to be about the news of the day. It's going to be about one big topic that we bring to the table. It's also going to be about great guests, and it's going to be about your calls. So that's what it's going to be. We will really dive into it once we get into spring practice here in just a few weeks. So make this a time to convene every Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern time. We will see you in just a few hours on the Miami show. Thanks for dropping by.